You are listening to the QSR Web Podcast.
As restaurant business news revolves ever more closely around all kinds of talk of plant-based products, one Georgia-born brand with a former rancher and farmer in the C-suite is keeping its focus on top-notch grass-fed beef burgers. That brand, Farm Burger, and its co-owner, Jason Mann, are next on QSR Web Podcast with me, QSR Web Editor, Shelley Whitehead.
Are you a supplier or a brand working to elevate the customer experience? The Interactive Customer Experience Association connects brands, suppliers, agencies, and more who are working to create transcendent customer experiences. Let's work together to create a better customer experience ecosystem for us all. Join the ICX Association today at icxa.org.
Okay, we're back, and a question for you. When you conjure up images of farm life, what do you think? Maybe pastoral, kind of laid back, perhaps even a little, old-fashioned? Well, down on the Farm Burger farm, at least, slow, sleepy, and old-fashioned as anything but the case. This brand, which takes its name on the taste bud tantalizing qualities of grass-fed beef burgers, has got a ton of irons in the proverbial fire, and none of them are the least bit old-fashioned, but very much on trend. And that includes everything from a recreated vegan burger, an invasive species catfish sandwich, to a just-opened location in that mecca of all things hip and trendy, Whole Foods. Jason Mann, you are the co-founder and CEO of the brand, and I'm happy to have you.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you for what you do and for letting us restaurateurs and people that are trying to make sense of this crazy industry have a voice.
I want to start kind of at the beginning, so to speak. If you will please give us kind of an overview of where we're at with this brand at the moment as it pertains to your geographic reach, your number of locations, annual sales. This is your 9th year? Isn't it?
Yeah, this is on May will be our decade, man. We are almost approaching our tweens. You know, we're not a baby anymore. We definitely are out having fun, but I feel like our parents have let us play in the woods. We've failed, we've fallen, we've healed, and we've learned a lot along the way. So we're approaching our decade anniversary will be April. So it feels like we've endured, and we're excited to look to the horizon for the next 10 years.
So where are you, and how many locations are you at right now?
Yeah, so we're a southeastern company. You know, this concept really was born out of my farm and small ranch in Athens, Georgia in 2009. And we're headquarters in Atlanta. You know, our first restaurant opened up in Atlanta in 2009 in Decatur, which is where Emory University is. Small, very interesting, diverse town on the outside of Atlanta. And now we've spread our reach throughout I think the greater Southeast, Tennessee, North Carolina, Alabama. We had a sojourn, which was one of our great adolescent adventures into the West Coast, where I'm from, into the Bay Area, into Berkeley, California, and in Marin County. And last year we decided, just in light of some of the things that the whole industry is currently having to address, you know, one of the great challenges of labor and the labor market in the Bay Area, and for us to achieve and live up to some of our core values around people, it just wasn't a sustainable future to expand in the Bay. So we moved forward from the 2 units on the West Coast, and now we just opened up our 11th yesterday in Midtown Atlanta at Whole Foods' new kind of centerpiece store.
You know, I wonder, as you said, you kind of backed out of the Bay Area, and that was largely due to labor cost. Am I correct, or am I putting words in your mouth there?
No, that's, it's a really interesting question. The top line sales, the guest customer reaction was as good as any of our units. But to do what we do, and I think this is something that we'll get into as the conversation opens up, to really stay true and aligned to our core values, which is really, I would say one of my primary jobs as the captain of the ship, is to make sure we can do that. And the reality was that in the Bay, and to sustain growth, if they were just going to be 1 or 2 units there, we probably could have kept the course. But when we looked at trying to go to having the scale that we would need to be able to leverage the supply chain, to invest in the people the way that we like to, we didn't really see a sustainable course. And, the Bay Area is a truly unique environment right now, just with what's going on there, the amount of growth, obviously the amount of wealth, the amount of also imbalance just around the industry there. And it's probably a whole podcast to talk about the Bay. And but it made when we looked in the mirror, and we try to be, and I think this is one thing that we try to do that I think we do relatively well, is just be reflective, be self-aware. And we just didn't see a future that justified the opportunity cost, when we feel like the spirit of our brand is in the work that we do is really needed more in the Southeast. The Bay Area is, as you well know, is the kind of the hotbed of sustainability and farm to table. And it's where I, kind of the intellectual and cultural kind of cut my teeth in restaurants and in the community there. And so I feel it's very important to me to make sure when we think about Farm Burger and we think about opening new restaurants, that we're still contributing to the conversation. And that, when we talk about growth, and I think it's also a question that you're going to ask is, what's the future? Is like, I want to make sure that farm burgers are being opened in communities that really need farm burgers and are going to appreciate the work that we do, support the work that we do. And I feel like in the Bay Area at the time, it was just, it made a lot of sense to move forward, to thank our guests, and to let the other folks that are fighting the good fight on the front line there to continue their work.
Cows and beef are pretty much central, and that farmer, all central to this brand, both visually in your logo and in sync with your burger offerings. Since you're sourcing as much as you can, as I understand it, from farms that put clean, organic, humane beef production at the center of what they do. So have you been surprised by the types of customers attracted to that kind of brand? And can you tell us a little bit about them and how you adjust your marketing to speak to them?
That's a really great question. And first, we really see, our producers are our partners. You know what I mean? Especially in the beef space, but, we offer beef, poultry, and pork, since day one. And our core values are really about our protein program and in making, a hard commitment to our guests and to our producers that, when you come into Farm Burger, you're going to be eating 100% transparent, high quality, best in class proteins. And so that's really what Farm Burger is about, and so when you think about that, the one thing you got to remember now, I'm from San Diego, California. I was educated in the Bay Area at Berkeley. I one thing I never wanted to do was go into another community, a la the Southeast, and tell people how to eat. And this is 10 years ago. This is really 12 years ago. And it was important to me that we let the food, we let the hospitality, we let the price, let's just call it the whole value proposition speak. And so our approach was to not be in your face, to not be pedantic about what we do and how we do it. We really wanted the experience to speak. And then, frankly, we wanted people to be inquisitive. And so the marketing for let's call it the first 5 years of Farm Burger was very subtle. It was by championing our producers, by telling their story, but we never really wanted to be too, we didn't want it to be in people's face. But fast forward to today, and this is a question that me and our leadership team have often, is that, organic, grass-fed, natural, regenerative, plant-based, what was something that was happening on the margins of the food industry has now become something that if you don't have, you're losing. And so as there's a lot of noise in the space, a lot of greenwashing in the space, a lot of people that are not truly walking the walk of the talk. And so now when Farm Burger goes into new markets, and now that there's a lot of competition to try to tell these stories, we've had to think differently about our marketing. And it's why we're doing podcasts like this. And it's why I feel like I need to, I'm more comfortable putting myself forward. It's why we're in the four-wall environment. We're telling different stories. For instance, we never wanted to. We have just a very like a paper bag type placemat, recycled paper that we use. And now, for years, everyone said, hey, why don't you guys, use that to tell the story of some of your producers and talk about what you do. And I'm like, no, I think that's, I want people to really be focused on their food and on the conversation and the friends they're eating with. I don't think people need something in their face. But now, 10 years into it, we're going to do that.
You just relaunched your number 2 house-made vegan burger, as I understand it, with a new recipe that sounds stupendous to me. How's it being received, and have you tweaked it since the launch earlier this year?
Yeah, vegan. So no. I this is an interesting. Your questions are. We have wanted to be a very inclusive space. We want vegans, we want vegetarians, we want hipsters, we want my parents, we want little kids. We want Farm Burger to be everyone's restaurant. That's been a big part of what we do. If you go on and read our reviews, often people say some of the best vegetarian and vegan food you can get at Farm Burgers. We do a daily special with the farm, the produce that's coming in off in the back door. But the interesting thing is, obviously, as you scale and you have to really think about your supply chain and do things differently, how do you also streamline and create more discipline throughout your organization? Not every unit has the same level of cooking team and chefs at the helm. So, for instance, the vegan burger, we had a lot of disparity throughout the system on our vegan burger. And the truth is that 3 or 4 of them, they were vegetarian. We had this incredible award-winning vegetarian burger that was in Atlanta that we opened up with. But then when we started to move outside of Atlanta, we went to strictly a vegan burger. So the vegetarian burger was a relic of the past, and it lived only in Atlanta, but people loved it. Huge, loyal guest following. But we felt that we needed to have consistency throughout the system. We needed it to be a vegan burger. And so, we hit the laboratory, the food lab, and we came up with a recipe that we're proud of. And we think it's something that we could see evolving over time and with the seasons, especially how it's, the accoutrements, how it's built. But it's been received well. You definitely, in the Atlanta market, you do have people, coming in with wet eyes, wondering where the vegetarian burger went. But we really feel like the vegan experience is important. We tell people, this is one of the craziest things that people hear from us, is that we tell people to eat less meat. We're like the only burger company that you'll ever find that will say, hey, don't eat meat every day. But when you do eat meat, eat grass-fed meat, eat Farm Burger. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. And so we want to try to get our guests to come in for a beef burger one night, a vegan burger the next night, and hopefully a chicken salad the next day. So we really want to have a diverse set of offerings, and we're doing our best to speak to people that are thinking differently about red meat, and we think we got an important part to play in that conversation as well.
And I think we were talking a little bit before the show about those other types of burgers that you hear so much about today that are vegan based. Why'd you decide to go with your own formula?
So we do offer, we're talking about, me and Shelly were waxing poetically on how Silicon Valley Impossible Burger and Beyond Meats has disrupted our industry quickly over the last few months. And I got to tell you, those guys have told a great story. There's been highly processed veggie burgers on the market for 20 years that I think are every bit as tasty. But for whatever reason, it's hit a powder keg in the last 90 days. And, I applaud both those businesses and what they've accomplished. And I think obviously the market and the industry has to respond. We were a champion of the Impossible Burger over the last year. And we felt that it was really an interesting story to tell. And we felt it did have a place on our menu. But, as Burger King and White Castle and have jumped on board, and now most of the smaller restaurant groups and independent restaurants can't get the Impossible Burger. And we have a lot of angry guests that were like, hey man, we got our Impossible Burger here and now we can't get it. So we got to tell them why and how.
Speaking of new things, this month, let's see, you're opening a store inside a Whole Foods market in your home base of Atlanta. You just opened it, right?
Wednesday. Yep. We just second day right now. I'm looking at the ticker as we speak.
How did that come about? And is this the start of something we could see elsewhere for the brand?
I've been a fan of Whole Foods since I was a 18-year-old kid wandering around Austin, Texas, on a road trip, and wandered into my first Whole Foods, in 19 whatever, a long time ago. And watching Whole Foods evolve and having a lot of friends that have worked in that company as they've gone through their growth and their challenges. I've always, I remember when we were getting started, a lot of folks would ask in the real estate space, what's your demographic? And a lot of times I would say, well, look at where Whole Foods is going. And, typically with Whole Foods feels like they're going into a market, that's a good spot to put a farm burger. And over time, a lot of our producers, a lot of our key beef producers have also built relationships with Whole Foods. So, and I think that we both just had an eye on each other. And, I out here on the West Coast, they've developed their friend program, which is working with like-minded restaurant groups to place, they're not quite in, it's not in the Whole Foods, it's connected to the Whole Foods. And so you can really have a completely farm burger experience without ever walking into the Whole Foods, or, you can walk, there's also a door into the store. But I think in the end of the day, I think, when you look at both of our brand's values, how we think about agriculture, how we think about farming communities, and the part of the food company can play in it, I think it's an obvious match. And so when the conversation started a couple years ago, we thought if they were to put the right real estate, in our market, we'd be happy to work with them. And then, it was a process trying to figure out how it would work. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful store. It's a little bit bigger than most of our other units. And, it's, as to the future, I think that you got to have, it's kind of like getting married, right, man? We're on our first couple of dates right now. And I think that we'll see how it goes. But I could see a future, and obviously it's not just Whole Foods, it's Amazon, and that's a whole nother creature in itself. So, if Whole Foods and Amazon are excited about working with Farm Burger, I would love to be involved in thinking about how those three brands can help, make the world a better place. So.
Okay, that is well. Hello, is anyone listening? With C?
Yeah, come on, Jeff Bezos, give me a call. I'm ready. I'm ready to chat. I know you listen to Shelley's podcast.
Well, it's true. Yeah, he sent me an email today asking me, what. So, the truth is also that, and I love this, that you've moved into a sandwich with an invasive species through this blue catfish sandwich, which I've never tried, though I have had freshwater catfish, and I hear this is sweeter and firmer. And I just wonder, how has this been going over? And are you going to do more of this type of invasive species sandwiches or entrees?
This is an idea, as an ecologist and as a farmer, we deal with invasive species. You go to any pasture, and especially any pasture that has suffered any sort of degradation. When a soil system gets open, the invasive species move in, right? And whenever you have a disruption, invasive species come in, whether it's the sea, the land, etc. And so as an ecologist, the concept of how we manage to prevent and or to get rid of invasive species is there's a whole school of ecology, invasive species ecology. And so it's something I've always thought about, and there's, Jose Andres has, he has down in the Caribbean, they work with lionfish, and lionfish, one of his resorts or something he's involved with, they work on the lionfish front. And so I was intrigued by how they were using the menu and using the skills of their chef to obviously take, species that are overly harvested and get people to get excited about eating invasive species. And the reality is, Farm Burger or a handful of restaurants are probably not going to make a significant impact. But once again, it's more about the conversation. It's more about people thinking about what is an invasive species, how can we do our part in being part of the solution rather than the problem. And so for us, my co-founder, George Frangos, he had a relationship with someone that he worked with in the mid-Atlantic around Chesapeake. And he's a fisherman, but also runs a small distribution business. And so we had a line to a high quality product. And, and obviously catfish also speaks to our Southeastern heritage. And so we wanted to do a fish sandwich, try to do something different. So it was a limited time offer, and I believe it is all wrapped up now, and it went well. It went well for a long time, and I think we could see. I think as we start thinking differently about other invasive species, like we've been talking about kudzu.
That's
kudzu
what I was
in
thinking.
Georgia.
That's
kudzu, there's like, I know someone that makes kudzu root beer. Kudzu can be cooked down and eaten. There's a lot of things that can come out of it. So different sorts of invasive species might pop up over time over Farm Burger at the Farm Burger world. But I think it's bigger than just invasive. It's just, I think it represents, how our brand wants to think about our menu and about what we can offer, because it's burger. We do burger and fries is our nut and bolts, but we also want to continue as we grow to think differently and to make sure that our guests gets to experience some unique stuff when they come into our stores.
Well, Matt, just to kind of wrap up here and referring back to catfish, which has got the South by the heartstrings. I'm wondering, will Farm Burger itself, which is now mainly Southern brand, will it remain so? And how do you see it growing in the next couple of years?
Yeah. We're in the history of modern world, right? This is the best time to be an eater. There's never been a more diversity and more restaurants than there is today, And as an eater, it's the best of times. As a restaurateur, I think, and especially a restaurateur that wants to grow, you got to be really, really smart about your decisions about where you're going next. And so Farm Burger will not grow for growth's sake. Like I said earlier, we still believe that the world should have more farm burgers. and as long as we, me and my partners, we think about our legacy and our brand legacy, we want to be a thought leader. We want to be a thought leader in the space for both our peers in the industry, for the farmers and producers that we work with and the ones that we bring into our fold and to our guests. And so when I think about the future of Farm Burger, I believe there are, many communities that where Farm Burger is interested in going. So, I think we want to grow smartly. I would like to believe that we could be at 20 to 25 units in the next, opening 3 to 5 units a year over the next 5 years. But at the same time, I think this industry right now there's a lot of peril, and I think you got to be really, really smart. And so we're looking for unique spaces and unique communities. We're looking for unique partnerships, like one we have with Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We're in there. We're the first grass-fed burger that you can get in America at a major professional stadium. And I compliment the Falcons leadership and Arthur Blank for that. And relationships like Whole Foods, working with Whole Foods to help ensure that we're growing with the right partners. And so, but I would say that if for the next 3 to 5 years, I think it will be hard to find a farm burger outside of the Southeast. Maybe coming up towards you, I think that would be, Kentucky. We really like Louisville and Lexington. I like Cincinnati, and we're our rivals to the south, Florida. Man, it's a big state down there. I've been looking across that line, thinking about what farm burger in Florida could look like as well. So. We'll see what happens, but I can't tell you, Shelly, how thankful I am for what we got today, and for the work that we get to do every day. And we're just trying to do good, and do good by our team members and our guests and our farmers, and make sure that we're walking the walk as we walk into the future.
Well, you can't do better than that. And I do want to thank you for pulling back that barn door and giving us a look at some of the inner workings of farm burgers. I wish you great success. And also to our audience that is going to wrap up another show, but come back soon. And until then, be sure you have a great day.